So a lot happened in Hartford for the regional qualifier, with Diana and Master Yi also making it into the finals and having a thrilling match with Factor, a Utah guy, also being able to make it and win it all. Not only that, I had a pretty good upset that happened in round 4 that we are going to be discussing a little bit before the finals. All of that and more we're diving into right now. So yeah, a lot ended up happening over the weekend, and of course, for those of you who don't know, I'm still pretty new to the competitive scene, still trying to work through things and get everything ready to go, and things like that. I've done 2 RQs, I've done a YCS back in like 2016, and that is my competitive career as a whole. Otherwise, it's been local Nexus nights and Commander. That's basically it. But all the same, we were preparing, and I decided to take Master Yi. If you guys have been following this channel, it was between Master Yi and Azir, and it looks like that Master Yi ended up actually winning out. That's unfortunate. I did really want to take Azir, but I was just that much more comfortable with Master Yi and the matchups already. It's been a deck that I have been playing for, multiple sets at this point, and so I wanted to be able to get the most out of it without being able to have to, relearn everything, all the matchups and everything like that. So naturally, we decided to go with Master Yi, and it turned out to be a pretty good choice. We did end up going 5-3 with, unfortunately, our final round being against the matchup we did not want to see, Aurora. And the guy just ended up hitting everything that he needed, hit the answers to my answers, which was very difficult. I had a Sabotage game 1. He had 2 Auroras in hand. Otherwise, I was already at 6 points, and we were looking pretty dang good. Game 2, I have, 2 Not So Fast in hand. I have the Rake. I destroy his Aurora. The turn it comes out. I am able to save my units at the same time with the Not So Fast. And then he hits the Mind Splitter and is able to take my action after playing another Aurora. All right, that's fine. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. So I go and play a Scuttle Crab at that point and am able to top deck into an action and am then able to take over his unit, only for him to play an Elder Dragon on the following turn. So yeah, that really sucked. He ended up having all the answers, and I almost made day 2. It was a great run. Had a really thrilling match with Challenger TCG, as he was going for the best of Jinx in this case. Really good player. Ended up knocking him out, which is really sad. I hate doing that when you're both like on the cusp and you know that this is his last chance to get the Jinx run. That really sucked, but that's how it is. Now in round number 4, I had already been doing pretty good for the day. I was 3-0 going in, and when I take a look at my phone, I'm going against Alan. And yeah, it's Alanzq. We're going to be on table 20, and it's like, all right, cool. Let's lock in then and see what we're able to do about that. How are we going to be able to go about this? We have a good favorable matchup 50-50, though he is the best Diana player, arguably. Diwali is also a great one. They just came out with their list and their Metafy guide as well, which is pretty helpful. But that was the hardest part. It's like, okay, well, don't count it as a loss by any means yet. We still have games to play. We still have a lot that we can at least prove. And if I take a game off of him, awesome. And luckily, when I was able to sit down, I was clear of head, didn't necessarily feel like the stress or tension that you would normally expect. Like, I was actually really surprised by that when going against Alan. So luckily wasn't having to go through that in particular, but it was still something that was on my mind, that we do need to play very careful. We need to make sure we calculate our moves all the more, even more so than what we actually ended up going against. And gotta say, really fun guy to be able to talk to and converse. And as soon as the game starts, boom, he is locked in. That was really cool to be able to see, that kind of aspect firsthand. You see that on stream and everything, but man, when you see that actual lock-in in person, is really cool. Now, the hardest part for him was he ended up just severely bricking game number 1, and it was a very straightforward match for the both of us, essentially, in the sense of we're playing units and we're conquering with maybe a little bit of spell interaction. It felt a little bit more like a set 1 match than it did anything else. Now, with that being said, though, we're still, being very careful and calculated, and it ended up being 6-8 at the end of game number 1, even though, yeah, he ended up having a lot not really go for him, and it was a straight up brick for him game 1. So We're sitting there. We've already taken a game off of him. First game took about 10 minutes, so it wasn't really long at all. I mean, I'm telling you, it was just very straightforward. It was like, hey, I'm going to conquer here. Do you have anything? No? Okay, cool. I score. He's going to be like, hey, I take this back. Do you conquer here? Hey, I score. He was able to get 2 hold points. All of my points were conquer game number 1. Now, when we were going into game number 2, it was really interesting to see because now we get to side deck in. That game 1 was a brick in that case. And so now we got to really prepare. We have the not so fast that we got going for us. We have a couple of good answers that we are going to be able to use with our side deck. We put in the 3rd Ruin Runner, and we're ready to go at that point. Now, the interesting part was that we start out the game. I'm able to develop my board a little bit. And as we start getting the first couple of points, we get up to 3 points, and then he double starfalls to be able to completely wipe my board. That was something that I did not expect whatsoever. And so we were still luckily able to bounce back a little bit with that, able to play out a crab to be able to see what was in his hand. And he had his way. He had a 3rd starfall, so he opened with all 3 starfalls at that point, and 2 stupefies and 1 other card that I can't remember off the top of my head. So as we go into that, we're trying to be very calculated. We have a couple of answers with that, and we're just trying to get our game going for him. Now, the biggest thing is that we at least have a good advantage. He's able to build up a battlefield with a scout, and then what was really interesting, or not with a scout, with a student, sorry, with a student. But then what was interesting was he played his way back to base. And I think he did say that this was, or it was Diana to base, something like that. Yeah, it was Diana to base instead of to support the student, which was an interesting place. And he says on his Twitter account that that was a misplay, that he probably should have, because I just immediately stacked my rain guard there and was able to take the battlefield. And that is a very difficult thing for you to get over, especially when dealing with the +2 that Yi is able to get. Wei can definitely help with that, but he only had 2 stupefies in hand and also the 3rd starfall, which we did at least have. I believe we had a defy in hand ready to go for that. Then on top of that, we were luckily able to get our Ruin Runner out. We were able to see that very early on, both games, which was very helpful. And we were able to go in and conquer that one of the battlefields. And at that point, then we were able to unguard our Ruin Runner, and then we did a challenge on his way in base because he only had like 1 rune up, and I knew that he wasn't able to target my Ruin Runner because I believe it was I had a 4-mite in the other battlefield, I believe. It's a long time ago. Not really, but you know what I mean. We had 2 units in the battlefields at that point. So I was able to take out Hui without any opposition there. And we're able to continue to hold at that point. We got a double hold to be able to get up to the end game there. And we're at 7 points. And it's like, okay, we're at 7 points. We have a Poro, we have a Not So Fast, and we have a Defy in hand. This is scary because at this point, mid to late game, you're going to see Diana with always having a lot of runes in this case. And so to be able to have that moment, we're like, all right, let's see what we're able to do here. How are we going to be able to get this going? And we have answers. Can we still get rid of his Moonfall in this case? Yes? All right. Let's see. So yeah, he plays his Moonfall, tries to get my units over when attacking in. Luckily, we are able to Not So Fast. He takes the Ruin Runner battlefield. Okay, that's fine. He has to stop me from conquering both, and we still have the Defy in hand. So we're okay there. That was the scary part. Now, he played out a Tide Turner to be able to switch with the Hui. He drew a card, discarded a spell to be able to draw another card, looking for Ride the Wind to be able to take the last battlefield. Now, of course, we still have that Defy in hand. And he extinguished all his runes except for 1 and did not find the answer. And so we were able to then take it 2-0 versus Alan. So that was really cool and pretty awesome to be able to see. Definitely not anything that I was expecting I was hoping that, I could at least take a game. I felt like that'd be really good. But to be able to take that, especially in a matchup that, I said that I was most worried about, was really cool. And again, just a really cool guy. It was awesome to be able to actually compete against him. And he had still a really good run. It really sucks that he lost to Infinite Lux. That's, you know how I feel about that deck. But anyway, we had a pretty dang thrilling finals, and the two decks in particular. Now, of course, this is going to be Factor RQ Hartford's deck, and both decks are going to be linked in the description below. Now, why this deck is just so awesome. Of course, he is now probably and arguably the most powerful deck in this format. The +2 is just so good, and now that we don't have to worry about the other card draw in particular that is going to be continuing to ramp up the suppression that it's able to dish out, Yi stands that much more of a chance. We still have some card draw, which is very helpful, but we're able to do a lot with what is given to us, and we have a consistency that I think is very difficult to be able to match. Diana, I say, is also the second best deck. I will say that Diana is probably still the better deck compared to Master Yi. The reason why I say that, though, is because Master Yi has the consistency, but Diana has the ability to be way more explosive. That's difficult to counter. When Diana has the cards fall into place, you are able to go big and absolutely destroy your opponent. Now, that's the interesting thing. Now, Yi has been an interesting one, too, because we've seen a couple of different iterations throughout this couple of runs. Houses Are Big has been able to have a pretty good run with his list, and because of that, we were able to see a lot of really interesting ideas to make their way and cause Yi to go from probably the third or fourth most taken deck now to the first. One of the biggest changes, though, from like the Houses Are Big list in particular is going to be the sabotages in the list and the Fiora. Now, of course, Houses Are Big, I think, ran one or two. I think he only ran one sabotage in the main deck, two in the side deck. And then, though, at this regionals, he bumped it up to 3. Now, Fiora, though, I gotta say, is one of the most impressive new adds that we've been able to see with this deck list in particular. It actually fits incredibly well in this current meta. The one thing I am a little bit worried about, though, is the 3 might that it is currently at, but it is an amazing 3-drop all the same because of what it is able to do. Now, when I attack or defend, one-on-one, that's a key word, one-on-one, double my might this combat. Now, that's a when I attack. So if they happen to play a Rengar after the fact on all of that, then of course it's not going to be like the Master Yi ability, where now that it has 2 units defending there, it's no longer alone, so it loses the +2. No, in this case, after the attack or defend one-on-one is measured or is activated, then you are able to get the double might for the rest of the turn. So pretty interesting ideas right there that you are able to utilize. Now, that is for this combat. So if there's multiple combats at that point, you're not going to be able to do that kind of check over and over again. You still have to be a little bit wary because I believe you are still able to, of course, play like Rek'Sai's and ambush units out, which can really suppress Fiora. But if that is your kind of matchup that you're going into, then you, of course, can side this out for another thing. So really interesting there. Love the inclusion there. 3 sabotages, of course, are just going to be really good in particular because the more that you are able to get that kind of hand knowledge and even potentially take out a card, the better off that you are going to be. Sabotage, great into like the Aurora matchups, great into the Diana matchups especially too, because you're going to be able to not only see what you have to work with, but if you are able to get a Moonfall out of hand and know that maybe a Fizz is coming in, you only have to use 1 Defy at that point instead of hoping to have a Defy and not so fast and things like that, then you're better off there. So that's going to be one of the big things that we have to really look forward to and watch out for. Now, all things considered, though, this is going to be interesting because also when you go into the Aurora matchup, it is one of our hardest matchups, but you are going to have a much higher chance of being able to see Sabotage and to potentially then get rid of the Aurora before your opponent is able to play it. I love the inclusion of Arena's Greatest. It's one that I ran in my deck. It felt so incredibly good over the weekend and was able to do a lot of work. There wasn't necessarily any matchups that it felt bad in, except for Rek'Sai. That was the only time that Arena's Greatest felt like it really benefited the other deck more than it did me, because we are able to move so fast. Now, Seed of Power in this case was ran instead of what you would normally see with Starspring. And I gotta say, Starspring for me did put in a lot of work with all of that, but that's gonna be the biggest thing is, yeah, if you're going with trying to get the more card draw, again, Master Yi is lagging a little bit behind on the card draw train, at least compared to Purple, and needs to be able to get some of that catch up. One of the ways that you're able to do that is getting that +1 when you're able to conquer both battlefields. That's going to be a big aspect of that. All the same, though, really good deck list, and love that Factor was able to do that. It was so cool to be able to see him make it to the top. He's been able to have some good runs. He had some tight runs in Vancouver. He's had some really powerful runs in Vegas, but wasn't quite ever able to get there. But now he is on the radar, and he is an absolutely powerful competitor that we are able to see more of. I can't wait to see what his runs are able to make, and him winning this is definitely deserved. Now, of course, next we have Diana that was able to make it. And again, we're taking a look at some interesting stuff that is included here. He did some unique things that I really like that he was able to do. Now, we're going to be taking a look at the gameplay after this too. But the one thing to remember here is that you're still running a lot of like the gear protection and things like that. You're getting acceptable losses going. Again, that is going to be one of the things that will really help benefit you against like the Aurelia matchups or the Aurora matchups, which again, Aurora had another really bad run in this case. There were a couple that were able to do okay, making day 2, of course, but all the same, it seems like that Aurora is still really struggling in this format. Now, one thing that's really interesting about all of this, too, is that you're seeing that we have 2 Gusts, we have 3 Stupefies, we have 2 Hard Bargains. That's something a little bit different than what we see. Normally, we see 3 Ride the Winds, but in this case, that is not the case. And I know that Alan and Diwali had been trying 1 Sprite Fountain in here, but it looks like that Diana is just going full force here on trying to hit the ground running, being a little bit more aggressive with 3 Sprite Fountains. I gotta say, it definitely is a great ad, because if you can see that, it can really speed up the game. And that was one of the interesting parts about game number 2 in particular, was what Sprite Fountain was able to do when Double Arena's Greatest was revealed. A little bit of a spoiler, you get it though. Now, of course, you're still going to be running 2 Moonfalls. That's becoming more and more standard, that you're running 2 Moonfalls and 2 Starcross, with keeping the 3rd Moonfall and maybe even the 3rd Starcross, depending on your build, in the sideboard for you to be able to utilize and access later. Rebuke is becoming a very solid answer. Same with Eclipse, though again, you're going to be seeing Eclipse or Smokescreen, depending on what you want. The biggest thing about this list is that you're kind of going the same route as Master Yi, where you're avoiding a lot of the power costs that you have to worry about in that early game. You have Vex that doesn't cost anything. You have, Traveling Merchant, Tide Turner. You have a lot of your spells that just don't have any power cost, because the goal is for you to get to around 7 or 8 runes so that you can really start taking that aggression to your opponent. So, with that being said, you're able to do so with a lot of these answers. So you might be letting your opponent get a little bit ahead, but then you're going to be able to just absolutely answer them time and time again. And if you get something like Way Out, then you're just going to absolutely dominate there. Now, that's the interesting part about this, though, is that they opted in for the triple Vex here and only 2 Way. This is something that we don't see very often. The Way can be just that suppressive force, kind of like the Aurelia in the Aurelia deck, on being the Protect the Queen. This is Protect the King in this case. Now, the reason why is because of the ability, being able to, when I move, draw 1 and discard 1. That's going to be one of the biggest things. But that's why it's so interesting that we're going for a 1 of Kha'Zix instead, meaning that we have the ambush, and then when I attack or defend, if an enemy unit is alone here, give me +2. That's really big, especially because it is just 4 in a power, potentially for 6. That's solid. You can also accompany that with a Sprite Fountain, which is pretty dang powerful. And then triple Vex. Now, Vex can be a really good card, don't get me wrong. But it also feels like that if your opponent has even 1 unit on the board that still has a little bit of life, especially if it's a Master Yi, you're going to be finding yourself where the Vex isn't going to be necessarily surviving. There were multiple times that they had a Vex and another unit on a battlefield. Okay, that's perfectly fine. I had a Poro, and then I would move in and punch first. That's definitely why you're probably running the double hard bargains and things like that. But playing Vex out that early in the game, thinking that you're going to be suppressing these decks, and then they just attack the Vex and call it good, and it gets blown up, and you just, essentially wasted your turn. Yes, you got rid of their punch first, or you got rid of their primal strength, doesn't matter, and that was something that I used multiple times to be able to get over Diana's and just my other deck lists in general that I ended up going against. So, food for thought there on all of that. Now, the cool part about this deck, though, is I do love the Traveling Merchants included in here, and otherwise it is relatively standard. You will probably end up seeing like 2 of the Turn to Dust in the sideboard. You're going to see probably the Moonfall and the Third Star-Crossed, and then maybe some more spells to be able to utilize depending on what you're going against. So we'll see. I would even probably say the third Ride the Wind is probably in the side deck. All in all, really good list. Love that. It was so cool to be able to see Arena's Greatest, double Arena's Greatest. And it was so funny, though, because earlier in the top 8, we were able to see double Aspirant's Climb. That was a crazy match, too. It was Pike versus Ezreal with double Aspirant's Climb in the third game. Crazy, but that's just how it goes sometimes. So now we're going to be taking a look at the gameplay. So with that, we're starting out with Seat of Power being the dual battlefield in this game 1, and Diana being able to go first with the Ravenbloom student, which is just so powerful. And again, though, we're seeing a Scuttle Crab here that can also just continue to get you the card draw. And not only that, we also have the Charm. So if we need to worry about, possibly a Vex coming out, Ravenbloom student, if he ends up just having 1-up, and things like that, then there's a couple of things that we can plan. Now, I gotta say, the Camel is going to be one of the biggest things. The ability to not be the target of spells and abilities is crucial. That is such a big difference maker here that you are able to utilize. And the reason for that is because Diana is just going to continually be targeting, and then at that point, the only way to take care of the Ruin Runner is to get over that, and that most of the time is going to be with Wei. That's it. But if you have any type of support, you're going to be already at 7 might for the +2 when defending. But if you have Unguard, Discipline, Punch First, whatever it might be, then you're going to be in a much better spot. So here we go with the Sabotage coming in. That's going to be a Stupefy to be able to draw an extra card, to be able to -1 on the Master Yi. That's going to add 1 to the Ravenbloom student. Very helpful there. And you already see that we have a Moonfall in hand. So with that being said, you're already going to be taking care of a lot of the battlefield. That is something that can be so suppressive in this matchup. Now, I got to say also, not only that, you do also have the stack deck and a bunch of other good options, the Fizz in hand, but being able to get rid of that Moonfall to the bottom of the deck, that is exactly why you play something like Sabotage. So again, though, another Sabotage in hand. If you want to use it, you're more than welcome to. So this is something that's really cool too, though, is you're able to see the hand cam here. Again, one of the greatest additions that they were able to have included in this, and something that I just absolutely love. Now, with the 6, he is going to opt to go in with the Ruin Runner and then pass. Doesn't want to challenge the field here at that point. And the big thing here is that Diana does not have the hand knowledge now that Factor ends up having. That is going to be an advantage, and even being able now to go in and have your opponent be at 4, but still be able to have this kind of hand knowledge is a big difference maker. Now, Factor is going to be going up to, 8 runes, 7 runes at this point, and is going to be able to get a double conquer. That's going to be another vital card draw that he's going to be able to utilize there. So we'll see what ends up happening. But the Ruin Runner being a part of this interaction is going to be very helpful. And I also love that you got to just watch out for the interactions. With 2 up, there's still a bunch of spells that can potentially be a factor here in the play. But now we have 6 might when defending alone on one battlefield and 7 might on the other when defending alone. Now here's the risk, though. You got to get rid of the Wei in some way, shape, or form. There's going to be a lot of ways that you're going to be worried about certain things. So we're immediately going to be charming in the Wei into the Ruin Runner. That's going to be 7 to potentially 8. He'll have to discard a unit. He just played out a lot of units. And so it looks like he is going to have to discard a gear at that point. And then still be able to get a stacked deck going off. And so that right there is already a really big win. You don't have to worry about Wei being there. That's going to allow him, though, to ready 2 runes, which can be pretty dang powerful. Another great reason why you want to run the gear of Sprite Fountain. But still, getting rid of that Wei is a pivotal moment here at that point. So Charm is just going to be an absolute winner right there on being able to take that. Now, next, we're going to continue to see the card draw potentially going in with the Scuttle Crab. Very easy choice, very tempting choice to make, too, where you might be finding yourself in a little bit of trouble if you're opting to go more for the card draw, hoping for those buff spells that you are going to be able to get Primal Strength, Discipline, things like that, because that can make a big difference there. But in this case, we are going to be going with the Lonely Poro to where, yeah, we're going to probably be able to attack in. And with Primal Strength in hand, we can go up to 9, which will be able to get over so much of Diana. Now, the Eclipse is going to be coming in. That is going to be a -4 and a +1 to the Ravenbloom student. That is a 0 might mastery. You still, of course, have to deal at least 1 damage to it, but both are going to be coming in, and there is 5 worrying about a Rengar at that point, and a Rebuke going into hand. Now, again, that's great knowledge for Factor to be able to have at that point. But going with the Unguard, it is going to be able to go up to 2 at that point. And so we're still going to be able to also get the +2. So we got a couple of options here. Still something to keep in mind. And it looks like it is just going to be a trade into the Diana, and the student is going to be taken out. It's a tough choice, too, because, if they had the might to be able to take out the student or Diana, it's tough because the student can just be so good with all the spells that you're going to be playing, but Diana to be able to add more spells is very difficult too. So you got to be careful about that. So is going to be adding or replaying the stack deck to be able to draw another card, and we still have that Sabotage that is in hand. So again, that hand knowledge is going to be vital here, especially with 3 runes still at the ready for Diana. A lot of spells to worry about. So Factor has an option here. And again, being able to go in and potentially play the other Sabotage, I think even at this point is really good because that hand knowledge, he's drawn a lot of cards. Traveling Merchant is on the field. You were able to, draw and discard some, or, draw and discard a card with Wei. So we'll see what else is able to go on here with all of this. And that's the hard part. You have lost out almost in a turn and a half on the hand knowledge. So, yep, going in with the Sabotage is going to be a great play here to be able to look at the hand, and it looks like 6 cards in hand at that point. And not only that, but we are seeing a Starfall, which, I mean, if you are able to bounce back the Fizz, that kind of suppression alone is also incredibly powerful here. And so to be able to get rid of that, I mean, I'm even okay with allowing the Rebuke, the Ride of the Wind, to continue to stay in the deck. That's a really great option here, and I think the Starfall is, yep, exactly the one that needs to be picked. It is just such a powerful purple spell that is able to be used here. And so with that being said, I mean, this is already another great momentum shift for Factor to be able to utilize and continue to score up on points, but there's still a battlefield here that is wide open with Ravenbloom student. Now, there's Ride the Wind. That's pretty good. You can put the student right back to base. And you have a couple of other options that you have to be worried about. So as long as you can calculate this out, I mean, you have 6 runes that you are able to use here. And so you're going to be able to find some options. And it looks like at that point, we're going to just immediately challenge it. Now, of course, that's only going to be on reaction spells, but there's not going to be anything necessarily that's able to be played to be able to stop that from happening. Now that you're able to get over to the other battlefield, you're going to get the draw from the battlefield. Very powerful right there. Poro dies, you're going to be able to draw also another card, and you can keep the Scuttle Crabs in the base so that you can get the emergency hand knowledge kind of thing. So Ride the Wind is going to be going in, though, on the showdown. He is going to be going in as attacker, and Primal Strength is going to be coming in. An absolutely powerful shift of momentum right there. And Factor is doing an absolutely great job with being able to continue to control this game. And you can see exactly why he can be that suppressive of a deck list. So great job right there from Factor on being able to do that. And now he has the momentum. We got the Stupefy, trying to get some more card draw, trying to find these answers here with stacked deck on top of that. There's some good answers. Again, you're seeing the power that Diana can utilize on just being able to dig through every single deck to try to find the answers here and still be able to find this. But when you're only running 2 ways, that's difficult. So we're going to rebuke back, trying to move the Traveling Merchant. This is almost like a mercy point. You're trying to continue to stay in the game here, especially when you only see that there is going to be 2 Scuttle Crabs in the backfield. You're not necessarily too worried about that, but there is another way there and a card hidden. Still, though, 5-6 now for Factor. He is down by a point still, but that Ruin Runner is putting in work on at least keeping him consistent here. And I gotta say, love that we were also able to see the challenge. I think that was a big difference there on being able to get more card draw and that momentum shift that was vitally needed. But even still, Diana only does have 1 up, so maybe a Stupefy that you could be worried about. But you can go in and trade, get the hand knowledge. Yeah. And so going to be playing a Discipline out to give +2, revealing the Tide Turner to switch with the Way. And so that's going to be another card draw. It's going to be going up to +3 because of the Ravenbloom student being discarded. And that can be a difficult mountain to climb, especially right after your Primal was taken out. So we're going to immediately trade at that point. See the hand that there's a Ride the Wind and a, Gear Destruction, though you don't have to worry about that with Mastery. Now, the difficult part is if Way ends up moving or anything like that, that is going to be another discard and draw. So we have the Scuttle Crab to be able to go in, and it is going to be charmed over at this point. No units, though. So you're really counting on that there isn't going to be maybe another unit drawn and going up to 11. But on that point, the Vex was drawn, and a Punch First is going to be going in, as it is 12 to 11 at that point, and a Double Conquer and another card draw for Factor here. And the momentum has shifted as Azonia's Hourglass is going to be hidden, and it is 6-6. Both ways have been taken out. The Vex was discarded, and there is 1 unit left on the battlefield. So great job there by Factor on being able to deal with the answers. I mean, you're able to see again how much they were able to cycle through on their spells here. And it was just absolutely crazy on how that was able to do. Now, again, we're still debating on whether or not Seed of Power or Starspring is the deck choice here. But, I mean, you're able to see a reason for both to be utilized here. Because especially if you Rengar out into something like Starspring, you then can send back like your Scuttle Crab, and your Rengar can then go up to 8 as the defender. So that can be a big shift of momentum there for that battlefield, and there's definitely arguments for both to be made. So great job there by Factor on being able to win that one. Now, of course, next we are going into Double Arena's Greatest, and they both just opted to be like, yeah, we're at 2, which is pretty awesome. I can't believe that we got to see Double Arena's Greatest, but Diana had the start. We were able to get a Sprite Fountain out with a Double Arena's Greatest, which is just absolutely insane to be considering right here. And now, yes, you are going to be going down in a power, but the fact that you are going to be able to go up to 4 with a double Conquer and double Sprite Fountain, or double Arena's Greatest is crazy to consider. Now, of course, still being able to get that first mate out is going to be helpful. You don't want to necessarily be the one trading in, and doesn't seem like he has the buffs, or could be also saving it. And that's the interesting thing. Double Sabotage, though. That's going to be great for the hand thinning, but a lot of power that is going to be used here. So right there, we're going to be going 3-3 to be able to look at the top deck. Looks like that might be switcheroo. Yeah, switcheroo there. So he is sideboarding switcheroo. Interesting right there. Very good into the Yi matchup and cannot be defied. It can only be not so fast. So not a bad choice by any means. And right there, that is going to be a well done takeout. And that is a lot of cards in hand, with another Sprite Fountain, a Gust, and a bunch of other cards that you were able to use here. With that being said, being able to also develop the Yi, that's pretty solid. You do have to worry about this because, again, when I was going against Alan, this was exactly the situation I was in when he was able to attack in and then Moonfall my Yi over and take out both. So you got to be so careful about that a lot of times. And the Gust is now coming in to be able to suppress the scorekeeping all the more. Now, at the same time, do you leave 3 up or do you try to... Oh, because you might have the Moonfall in hand. And yep, instead it's going to be... Yeah, it's going to be the Moonfall to be able to take out that unit. Now, this is the tough part because I don't know if that was the right play. He wasted the Gust to be able to take out the first mate. And then the first mate's going to be able to be used the rest of the game. That's something that I want to talk about here for a second. Okay? I think that that was a pretty big misplay. Why? Because Moonfall is twofold. It's a charm and a -2 to all units there. So to use a Gust to give first mate back to hand that is then used on the sequential turn is tough. And you're seeing why exactly why you're wasting a Gust here for nothing. That's the hard part. So, with all that being said, it can sometimes feel like that you're getting those kinds of plays going. But he would have +1 card that could also be used to even get rid of this Fiora at that point that now he no longer has access to. So something very interesting to keep in mind for that matchup. You know, and I just think that was a pretty vital misplay that now Factor is able to capitalize on here. And now he still has the double sabotage. So if he needs to, he could take out 2 very important cards. And we've already seen a Moonfall that has already been utilized here. So still going up to 6 and then going in with a Tide Turner. Of course, that's not going to be an activated ability at that point. Odds are the Sprite is going to be dead. But the nice part about having Sprite still in the battlefield is that they are going to have to take out or utilize a spell to be able to get over that. But wow, a Stargust is going to be, or a Starcrossed is going to be coming in to be able to take out that unit. Very nice job right there, and then getting rid of the Ride the Wind. So happy enough with the switcheroo, surprisingly, being in hand. And so might have a not so fast, though. I don't think so, and with only 1 rune up. Oh, but there we go. Okay. Yep, double set. That's right. Or is that a just... I'm not sure what happened right there. Sorry about that. But yeah. And another Gust is going to be coming in and being able to double up on the units there to go to 7. And so we're going to have Rengar move back, go in and punch first and have the GG right there. Now, again, that was a close call. So you saw how quick that was. He put the card down. Luckily didn't let go of it and was able to pull it back. Now, that is something that is a legal rewind, of course, that you are able to do because it was done, you know, quickly enough. Didn't have handoff of card. Other actions weren't taken at that point, and you were able to get that stuff done and correctly to be able to move the Rengar out and be the champion. Great job for Factor and a great run. You know, he is the champion of Hartford and is going to be taking home that trophy back to Utah. So great to be able to see him. Great to see him do well. A bunch of us in Utah, I think 6 of us ended up going. But yeah, Ricky Casanova, Factor, and a bunch of them are on a team. And we were following up with people throughout the day. You know, was talking to them right after I had defeated Alan, talking about the 4-0 run that we were having. And we were talking about Factor, how he was 4-0 and ended the day 7-1, which is just solid. And I gotta say, the Fiora, I think, is an absolutely great addition to this deck and just making it so much more powerful for you to be able to utilize this kind of stuff. But guys, I gotta say, Hartford was an absolute blast of a run. It was such a good time being able to get to know each and every one of you, being able to meet you guys and experience this game together. There was a lot of you that came up and even said, that you went to Hartford because you saw me and other YouTubers saying, hey, even if you're not competitive, go. And that was pretty special because it's like it was something that even though you might not feel like you're at this pro level by any means, that you're still able to have a great time, that you're still able to really enjoy what you're able to, do, that you're able to even enter a main event. And yeah, you're probably going to go. I mean, I went 2-3 in Vegas. Absolutely abysmal run. That was my own fault, though. I switched decks a week before. Wasn't smart. But, I had that kind of abysmal run there. And that just fueled the fire for me to get me to continue to better my game. Again, I am brand new to this competitive scene. I'm going to continue to build up my game, continue to do better to the best of my ability, and we are going to do everything that we can to be able to improve, get that day 2, and get that top 64. It's not a matter of if, but when. It's going to happen, and I think we caught a glimpse of that. Now, with that being said, that is going to be all for now. Again, thank you guys so much for making Hartford so special for me. Again, just you guys saying that, hey, I really enjoy the content, or hey, you were my first YouTuber that we watched, things like that really made all the difference for me. Because yeah, it's not easy by any means to make this daily content and things like that with you guys, or for you guys. Sorry, not with you guys, but for you guys. And just hearing and seeing each and every one of you and knowing that we were in this together, we were enjoying this great hobby together, meant the absolute world to me, and it really left an impact. So thank you so much, really from the bottom of my heart on all of that, and can't wait to see you guys in LA. It's going to be an absolute thrill of a time, and could very well be the first time that I top 64. It's going to be the first time I day 2. Mark that on your calendar. Mark that wherever you want. I'm marking it. I'm going to be day 2ing. We had a little bit of an unfortunate mishap in round 8, but we were almost there. We were so close, and we're going to do it. Can't wait to see you guys along for the journey. Can't wait to see how we continue to grow together as a community. You guys are amazing. And until next time, have a good one.